Hey, good afternoon. So this is part 3, which is the discard stage. So the first part is the idealisation. So following on from Tuesday, idealisation is where they put you on a pedestal, they shower you with gifts and compliments, you're the best thing that's ever happened to them. Nobody has ever understood them like you do. You're the best thing that's, to walk into their life. Nobody got them. But during this stage, they're also prepping you, they're manipulating you in a way that they're talking about exes and the reason that their relationship didn't work, and what they're actually doing during this stage is just telling you that if you want this to keep going, then you have to behave in this way. They then move on to the devaluation. So this will be little put downs, things that, little odd things that you might not put together and see as a big, huge problem, or even notice that it's happening. So it's so insidious. It's like water torture, a Chinese water torture. It's done drip, 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 and you have no idea what's going on. And then there's the discard phase. Now, there are a few elements to discard. So we're going round and round in a circle like a wheel, like the moon and the sun and, all the planets. So there's this cyclical thing going on. And they move into discard. Now, discard can be short-lived, short-term. It could be you can't get hold of them. They don't do, they aren't where they say they're going to be, or they cancel or do something. They might disappear. They might be hard to get hold of for a period of time. They might just completely ghost you and disappear. So that's discard. But what it actually what they'll then do is, and depending on which you're in, a short or long-term relationship, excuse me, is come back around to the idealisation until they have sucked absolutely everything out of you, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, until you are a shell of the former you, and you are no longer any use to them. You have got the energy, you're not giving the attention, and they very possibly finding it and getting that attention from somewhere else. So, and that is the final discard. Now, there are two elements to this. So it's either you've woken up and realised what's going on, and you're not going to put up with this any longer, or you still are in that phase of not wanting to let go. You're still believing the fake future you have with this person, and they discard you because they have found another supply of energy, another supply of attention. And this the first one, which is where you've woken up, is a lot easier to leave. It's a lot easier because you've actually done the discard yourself. You're then realizing that they might make you feel insecure. I'm just trying to repeat back and think what people have told me, how they felt at this stage, and my own personal experience, because I've experienced this twice, where I couldn't put up with it any longer, and I was in a position of being able to get out of the relationship. So the first one was when I was in a physically abusive relationship, and my son was really, really young. I'm really young, and I realised that this cycle was just about, the physical abuse was just about to start again. It had stopped during the pregnancy, and it was going to start again. And I thought, I really can't put him in that position, and so I left and I went and hid for a while, until I felt safe and strong enough to come back. And the second time I was forced into the position, but I already knew things weren't right and that I was wanting to leave the relationship. I was just trying to work out how to do it. And there was something happened, something snapped, and it just gave me that opportunity to leave. The third time, I felt discarded myself, so it was a completely different set of emotions going on. So where I had the strength the first 2 times, the third time, and yeah, I've done it 3 times. I think I might have done it 4 in a really, really short-term relationship. And so I don't know what I've just dropped. It was a completely different set. So the chemicals that are going on in the brain are really messing. So you've been hooked in, you've been attached, you've been trauma bonded. And what's happening is you're trying to understand this cognitive dissonance that's happening, where your brain can't understand. You're hearing one thing, but the actions don't match and they don't marry up. All you want to do is get back. You'll accept anything. Or this is my personal experience, you'll accept anything to get back into that place that you once were. I found through Reiki that, sorry, let me just get rid of this. I found through Reiki that I was attracting a lot of people. After about a year, I started attracting people who were going through the same thing that I'd been through, and part of me was still going through. And there's this mental turmoil. There's in all the relationships you can go back on average up to 7 or 8 times. They can lure you back in, and it really, really messes with the chemicals in your brain. And they will have been going around. They're very possibly going around saying that you're crazy and all sorts of making up stories. So you're very possibly going to play into their hands by reacting in certain ways. But the chemicals in your brain are tricking you, and the stuff that you have heard and listened to and believed as being the truth, the fix of love bombing and the trauma bonding, we go through something that I discovered, which was something I discovered was that I knew about fight and flight, the stress responses. I didn't really know very much about freeze and fawn, and those are again stress responses, but they're more protective ones of yourself. And I found a few times being in a freeze situation, and I also found, and I can't find where I read it now, but freeze was to do with an abandonment wound, and I think a lot of this has got to do with that. And what's going on. With the fawning is about pacifying and calming people down and calming a situation down, but boosting someone up at the same time. It's a very female reactive thing that we do. So I'm just quickly see where I am with the devaluation and the discard. So this cycle goes round. If they're not ready to discard you, not quite ready to discard you, they go back round in this circle. It's just making sure that they're attaching. There's an attachment there, that they're making sure that you're hooked in, and they are going to get the attention, and it's going to be fed to them in the way that they want. What else during the discard stage? Basically the whole thing is about power and control. This is my belief anyway. So you, as I said, you might wake up and you realise you've had enough, and you work your plan and work your way out of that relationship. It might be that they've already got their attention set up, or they're working on it, and they're ready to leave, and that is quite a really painful experience. The whole thing is, whether you leave or not, the whole thing is, and it's all about detangling and unhooking and releasing the trauma from the body. A lot of people experience adrenal fatigue, which is to do with the stress hormones. The adrenals sit above the kidneys. They are going to play the victim, and they're going to be going round, making out to be this awful person. And as you start to get crazier and crazier, because you will, it's very possibly take on that role. They will. You're playing into their hands, and you're providing the information that you are what they've said you are. So I know there's stuff I wish I hadn't, text messages and emails I wish I hadn't sent, and things I wish I hadn't done, but you're wanting to say to people, can't you see what he's, you know, what they're like? Can't you see what this person's done? And if they can't, all they can see is the crazy bitch that you are, and you want to go off and tell the next person, this is what he did to me, or this is what she did to me, and all you're doing is playing into their hands, because they've lined this up. They've been paving for months, you know, beforehand. They've been laying that, and I've got quite a few examples of, you know, where I've been in a situation and I was put in a place of being, look, you know, this is happening, she's stalked me, she's done this. And I said, well, did you tell them why I did that? And the answer was no. So this isn't rational behaviour. This isn't normal behaviour. You might be accused of having something like bipolar or personality swings and things like that. And I urge you to go back to the time you weren't in that relationship and see whether you behaved in the same way. I urge you to go back, and this is all about stepping out of the situation and saying, have I done this before? Have I experienced, you know, have I behaved in this way before? And there's a common thread. But I also found a common thread. So when I was starting to write my book, I could see I was writing about a short period of time in my life, and I actually started to see the pattern, and that's when I woke up and said, this is me, this is something that I've done. Because the people that I've worked with and the people that I've been coaching and I've been helping with the core issue work, getting down to understanding what it was, where the trauma originally comes from, have all said the same thing. There were 3 times that they felt there were like red flags, and they should really have stepped out of the situation. They really should have walked away at that point. And there were 3 times, and they forgave on the 3rd point rather than walking away. And I remember saying, I shouldn't be doing this. What am I showing my children? What is acceptable as behaviour? And I still continued. I listened to the story, the sob story, that I'm really upset, I promise I won't do it again. I listened to it all, and then I ended up in this spiral of confusion and craziness, you know. So, but for me, it's all about forgiveness. Always has been. Always forgive. Never judge. There's no judgment whatsoever. People are the way they are because of. But it's about saying, not putting up with that anymore. And I'm never ever going to put up with, you get one chance, if it doesn't fit in with me, then that's it. So this is about understanding what's been going on. So the whole point of the 3 videos, you can go out and you can spend hours, weeks, days, months looking at videos, and there's loads of them on YouTube and around. I wanted to condense it down to shortcut it for people to understand what's going on. There is a pattern. Everybody's journey is different, but there is a set pattern that plays through. Okay, there's the idealization. This person is the most amazing person that's walked into your life. There's my brain's gone. The devaluation, so the little put downs, but they're so subtle, and they're pulling you in, and their attachments. You know, I remember waking up and thinking, I have lived on my own and brought my children up. How can I not function? How am I not able to live? How am I not able to? And it's being trauma bonded to someone who wants to take over your life and wants power and control. They will be playing the victim in the discard. Do not, whatever you do, you know, if you're going through it, if you've gone through it, if you've done it like me, there's not a lot you can do. You look like the crazy bitch. You know you're not. You know that you were put in that position, and the events surrounding that were you're just looking for answers. The lies and the manipulation that goes on, and the stuff that you know in your heart and yet you can't work out what it is so deep. And also this part of you wants to believe they are that good person. They are the person with the mask that because when they were idolizing you, they were learning every single element of you. They were watching and manipulating, watching and making note of everything you liked and everything you wanted and everything that was of interest to you. And they were able to be another person, and they were able to put this mask on, but they can't hold up that mask for very long. They really, really can't. It cracks, it fractures, and eventually it drops away. And in the discard phase, this is where you see, and part of the devaluation, but if that's done really subtly, you won't see it as much. But there will be moments. So in the discard phase, it's the chemical reactions within the brain, the cognitive dissonance, where you've got these two opposing thought patterns, the not understanding what's going on, this not understanding how only a few moments ago, weeks ago, days ago, they were telling you and everybody else how much they loved you, how amazing you were, and how they talk about you all the time, and then they walk away. And they walk away with no consideration for anything else. Now that is not normal. That isn't normal. There are two things going on here, and I did say I saw when I was writing the book that this is me, this is what I've done, because I saw these red flags and I did nothing about it, and I allowed those barriers to go down, to be eroded, and I allowed that to happen. The other thing is, I think these people are very insecure. I think there's an emotional disconnect somewhere, that they can't relate to what they're doing. It's all about them, their need for attention, their need for whatever it is. It's now your time. If this is something you've experienced, it could be quite new for you. It could have happened a few years ago. You know, I've read stories of women that have gone through 30 years of marriage, or it happened to them 30 years ago and they still haven't got over it. This is the time to turn around and say, I'm claiming myself back. They broke you open to go in and find out what it was. This was your gift. They gave you this amazing gift to look inside. For me, it was an abandonment wound that I was able to track down, but also with the work I was doing around the time I was writing Finding Lily, after training as a core issue therapist, and tweaking some of that to some healing processes that I'd learned way back in the early 2000s, I was able to go out and I realised there were bits of me that had popped out. And it is about making yourself feel whole. We are diamonds. It's about being complete. It's about bringing yourself back together again. And this is a perfect opportunity between all these eclipses that are going on. You've got the new moon, the full moon tomorrow. There's another eclipse on the 11th of August, I think it is. And it's a perfect time to let the emotions bubble up and see what's going on. And asking yourself, as this is happening and as you feel you're going crazy or whatever it is that's happening, ask yourself, where does this come from? Who is this and how old is this child within me? Okay, you've probably done the healing on them. You've probably wanted to help them as much as you can. It's now your time. It's your time to build those barriers, boundaries, and reset and heal and pick up all those pieces. It's your time to feel whole and to getting in. And I describe it like a verruca. It's a virus. The verruca you see is a bump, a lump on the fur. You get treatment for it. Unless you get the whole of that root out, and that's going right down to the core, that virus stays dormant and it sits there and it waits for the trigger. And this is what happens when you meet a person, get into a toxic relationship, emotionally abusive relationship. It's there to show you something. They're mirroring. They see within you your insecurities and they mirror them back out. And then you as the healer, you as the person that wants to nurture and help, you as the empath, or the sensitive, the highly sensitive, wants to help because that is what you do, and you hand over your power in doing so. Now is the time for you to go in and for you to do the core work, and this is what I do, and this is my passion. I'm absolutely passionate about it. It's why I've set up the workshop in September, why I've changed my coaching. I now do a 3-hour intensive to do absolutely everything, to cover every element and every area. And the thing, and it's the same sentence that comes back, you will never know what you did for me. You will never know what you did. It gives me tingles saying it. You never know what that session did for me. I can never tell you what, to what extent that session helped me. I've spoken to people on the other side, which, where that are disconnected. I see a child, so if I use Trump for an example, and it isn't a political thing, I don't know his history or anything like that, but I see him as a man-child. He has got the motions of a child in a man's body, and everything he does and the way he reacts and what he does is for attention. Look at me. And this is a lot of the elements around it. And I believe these people that we end up in these relationships with, they have been in a traumatic situation and they are stunted emotionally at that age, and that's how they react. And they, there was a thing I saw with Oprah Winfrey, and she's done a series, and she was talking to a psychologist. Now, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not trained in that area, I'm just an intuitive, and I pick up what is going on for people. And she was saying to a psychologist, how is it that two people can go through a very similar situation? One comes out completely damaged and the other one isn't. And it's all about the people that are surrounding you. So if you've been through some form of trauma in childhood, you might have had an aunt or an uncle or someone close to you, someone else within the family that has nurtured you and shown you the right direction. On the other hand, that other person who might have experienced something very similar might not have had that. They might not have had that guidance, and they get stunted. I see a lot of people, I've seen it in my own family, I've seen it in people that I've been in relationships with, where I can see that child. I can see when they react as a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old. That is at the time that they were cut off emotionally, and there was nobody there to help them. But that's down to them to seek the help. That's down to them to sort it out. They have in some way hurt you, and but they haven't. They've actually given you. They've had a hammer and they've cracked you. You're like an egg. You're now open, and you're now able to let the light in to do the healing. You're able to go in yourself, and you're able to remove the core issue. For me, it was abandonment. I found a huge abandonment wound. It might be for you, I don't know. I think a lot of people have got this thing, and that's why they attract. So go in, do the work. If you want to send me a personal message and talk about it, I'm more than happy to have a chat on here. If you don't want to post openly, because I know this is an open page, I'm more than happy. I've just spent 90 minutes talking to somebody else about this. We did some healing a few months ago for her, and how far. It's a journey. You go up and down, you bounce up and down, you think, oh my God, I'm having an amazing time, and all of a sudden you crash back down again. You come up quicker, and you come up to the point that it might be an hour, and then you're back up to where you are. And it does feel bipolar. You've got these emotions, but you've got to remember the trauma that you have been through. You've got to remember that what was going on for you was it wasn't reality. It was all fake. It was all fake. And there's bits of you that are going to say, but did he really love me? And the other conversation part of the conversation I had earlier was, what if I'd only done if I'd only said, it wouldn't have made any difference. I promise you, you would still be in the same situation, maybe a week or so later, maybe a year or so later, maybe a month or so later. You're always going to be here. So take this, whatever you've experienced, in your own way. It was a gift, and now it was your time to go in and to heal the wounds, because they didn't cause the original wound. It comes from somewhere else. Okay, have an amazing afternoon, and I am away now for a few days, and I'm actually doing, I'm not sure, I might be able to jump on Monday and just pick up a few bits and pieces and cover a few other bits and pieces around the healing side that you can do, the journey you can go on. Meditate, don't hit any social media, don't do anything. If you have to, go and press only me. Me only is a button on there. If you feel you need to get it out there before you go public or before you go friends only, select me only. And there it is, it's recorded. And then you can go on your, when they bring the memories up every year, you can go, oh my God, look what was going on last year and how far I've come and how amazing my life is, and how my fake future I can go and rewrite to be my future. Love you lots.